most wonderful experience.
All right.
Yes, it would be. I see you. Can you see me? Yes, I do. Welcome back to the Anti-New World Order Party. We are here to discuss part 2 of the possible London false flag attack happening 2012, sometime in August. We've been discussing some interesting things here, John and I, and what we've really been discussing has been really bringing to light. We've been going over some searches here, really trying to dig down to the bottom of this information. And what I've been finding is some pretty strange information. You guys all heard of the Antichrist, right? Well, the Antichrist, he's not such a good guy. He's supposedly, a bad guy. But these guys that are planning this world global government, who want this possible London attack in August, who, you gotta understand, these people plan things years in advance, okay? It could be, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years in advance. I have a friend who, during World War II, was planning for World War III. That's right, and it sounds crazy. I have video evidence. I will one day put that on the internet, and you'll be able to see his testimony, but as of right now, he says no, because the government threatened to kill his daughter, and so we'll just keep it at that. But the point is, that's just an example of how far ahead these people plan. The interesting thing about this 2012 Olympic Games, some strange things have been popping up here. We're going to talk about the symbolism that is going on and surrounding the Olympics. But first, I want to read a quote by a man many of you know, or maybe you don't know, but now you will know. This is a quote by David Rockfeller. As David Rockfeller said at a 1994 United Nations dinner, quotes, "We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis and all nations will accept the new world order." David Rockfeller. Now, the right major crisis. See,
and that was a year before the Illuminati cards came out.
And that's something that we're going to talk about right here. That's right, the Illuminati cards. John, do you know, well, can you tell people a little bit about the Illuminati cards? Stuff that you know about?
I cannot because my computer's not working.
Well, do you have anything on your brain about it here?
Nope.
Offhand. Well, John brought up the Illuminati cards, and it's interesting how we know little bits and pieces of information, and somehow we can get the big picture when we connect the dots. Well, anyways, I had some information about the Illuminati cards that I thought were really pretty cool. It was from a website that I was actually just reading a little while ago. But I'm going to get into the Illuminati cards. Basically, I'll just tell you a breakdown. The Illuminati cards, it was like a card game.
Like tarot cards.
Right, like tarot cards, and they basically depicted, like...
Which, did you know that the playing cards that we use to play with, like, the regular playing cards, those come from tarot cards. But anyway.
Yeah, they come from tarot cards, and you learned this, how?
I learned this, someone told me and I looked into it, and it was obvious.
Interesting. Now, you were saying you looked into this. Can you give us an example of what do you mean you looked into this? How do you look into it?
Oh, I just Googled it. I don't remember. I mean, the 4 suits are the 4 elements. I mean, it's just really, really, really in-your-face obvious stuff that I just never heard anyone say. But really, it's the kind of thing for me where all I need to do is hear it, and I'm like, well, of course. I mean, it's not like it wasn't even a matter of research like other things might be. But yeah, you can look into it. It originates in Italy, and I mean, if this isn't obvious to anyone on hearing it, there's like abundant sources. There's no other place it came from. I mean, it's just, it's airtight. basically. I don't know a lot of the details because that's not the kind of thing I'm into. But yeah, it's plain as day.
All right. So in 1995, Stephen Jackson, Illuminati, New World Order game was released. The playing cards depicted numerous events and initiatives which can be used or implemented as a means towards achieving ultimate aim at world domination, including among them are an internet worm, an epidemic, gun control, introducing state lotteries, the use of subliminals, and just about every natural disaster. Excuse me. Every natural disaster but thinkable. But of the two of the most interesting cards are the terrorist nuke and the Pentagon cards. Both pictures that incredibly, almost perfectly depict the attacks of 9/11 over 6 years before the event took place. The first event of the TV drama series, The Lone Gunman, aired in March 2001, involved a U.S. government conspiracy to hijack commercial airlines and fly it into the World Trade Center, then blame it on terrorists to gain support for a profit-making war.
Again, those cards are terrorist nuke and Pentagon.
Now, also in the cards that were made in 1995 are cards about a bomb going off in London, a nuclear bomb going off in London. An interesting thing about these Olympics this year is the site that the Olympic Stadium is actually built on is an old nuclear facility. So there are speculations that underneath the facility itself there may be a nuclear bomb buried. And like I said, these people plan advance. They plan years in advance. So if they were so-called interested in blowing up a stadium and blaming it on, like, say, Iran in the future, they would plant this bomb in anticipation of it going off. And then what happens, once the bomb goes off, then they say, oh, Iran automatically did it, and that gives them, you know, ability to get the so-called people, as in you guys watching the video, behind a new war. Let's go and attack Iran, and obviously if we attack Iran, it'll be the beginning of World War III. So this is part of the big plan too, World War III. Why do they want World War III? Because they needed another war, and this will be supposedly the war that's going to end all wars. It's going to bring in a new world order. You know, let's destroy all the governments and then let one world government take over like the United Nations, and then we'll have our one world leader, and he'll help us. He'll save us all from. Oh, that's the second scenario. He'll save us all from war? No. The so-called second phase, the second possible plan of this 2012 Olympics is another government project. It's called Project Bluebeam, where they're going to use a fake alien invasion to bring all the world's governments together. Even Ronald Reagan said, I don't quote, you know, don't quote me word for word, but basically he said an outside influence that would bring the world together. You can Google Ronald Reagan's speech.
You notice there's a pattern in these very ham-handed presidents. They really seem to make a lot of globalist statements.
Yeah, it's some interesting stuff.
Really what we call strong presidential presidents. They're the ones. Reagan's just the latest.
Okay, so and we'll get back to some of my notes that I was taking here. Giant rituals need mass sacrifice. They keep reminding us how the eyes of the world will be on London. So whatever the plans, its intentions, is to traumatize, captivate, and captivate the global audience with enough shock factor to justify another world war. So like I said, if there was a bomb that went off, then they blame it on Iran and let's go to war. And then once we're in war, it'll take your eyes off the global economy. But something that I was touching on the last video that we made, it just happened to like come into my mind. I'm doing some research, and we're seeing that the global meltdown with the financial crisis is happening over in Europe, and it's happening in America, and I'm sure it's going to start happening in Asia and the rest of the Middle East, is the fact that London is the center for the world's basic financial capital of the world. And so if these bankers or these criminal bankers that have mafia ties want to get rid of all the evidence, so after they rob the world's financial system, well, they get rid of London and they go in and they just clean it out, blow it up with a dirty bomb or whatever. All the evidence is gone, then you can't trace it back to who stole what. So that's just another reason that they may want to go through with this. They knock two birds with one stone. War plus erase financial records. So that's just a thought. And there's some other interesting things that there was a TV series, right? And it was called Spook 9 Code 9 from 2008. Now, could it become a reality? In this TV series, it's 2013, 1 year after a bomb fell. London has been evacuated following a nuclear attack. With Thames House destroyed, MI15 has restructured as surviving agents recruit new teams across the rest of the country. Now, this was a movie that was made. It's kind of like, the X-Files made a little thing about 9/11 before 9/11 happened. These Hollywood insiders, they know what's going on. They're part of the plan. It's part of the cult ritual. It's like casting spells. In order to cast a successful spell, the witch or the witch doctor has to tell you about it. If they don't tell you about it, then the spell most likely isn't going to work. So it's part of their honor system that they have to tell their victims that they're casting spells on, that they're casting the spell. And so when they make the Hollywood
kind
movie,
of a twinge of conscience.
Right. So when they make the movie, or make the video, or they make this Hollywood movie, Hollywood TV series, whatever you want to call it, production, it's a form of casting a spell. So they have to tell you everything they're going to do before they do it. And so when they tell you, hey, we're going to make this movie, and we're going to blow up London, but they're not going to directly tell you they're going to blow up London. They're going to make it into a film series, a spell. And then they follow through with the action. So that's how this whole occult Illuminati witchcraft works. Luciferian witchcraft is really what it is. But
yeah, Hollywood's powerful. I mean, ask yourself, do you know the difference between Hollywood and Washington? I mean, they're almost the same thing. Hollywood's way more powerful than we give it credit for, and Washington is way more acting than we really think about.
Well, and also,
do we really know the difference?
The other thing is, a lot of these people that are in Hollywood are related to a lot of the bankers, and a lot of the bankers are related to the politicians. And it's funny how the bankers, the politicians, people in Hollywood, mainstream news anchors, like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, a lot of these people, if you look them up, a lot of them are related family members. Like Barack Obama is related to George Bush, who's related to Rush Limbaugh, who's related, just look it up. Just look up Hollywood elites, global elites, how they're all related. And it's funny how they all relate to the Queen of England.
And they're all Khazars, too. I mean, the big people in Hollywood and the big people in D.C. and the big people in Wall Street. And they're all the same cats. It's about time we really woke up to just this simple fact.
Yeah, I mean, you could simply just do some research and find out that these people are all related to like 300 families that are all tied into the same bloodlines. That's why they're called the Illuminati, the elite.
They're the same people who reigned over the Dark Ages in Europe and Asia.
Yeah, John. Actually, John has an interesting thing. We're working on a book here, but we're also working on some other things. But tell them about your little discovery today about Microsoft Word.
Well, we were typing up an outline for this book, which, by the way, is going to be an awesome book. I highly recommend buying it. Just because of what's in it, it's not in any other book. And we present it in a way that's, well, we'll let it be a surprise. But anyway, I was typing about the, let me just pull it up here. Well, I was typing about the Khazarian Empire. So, you know, the Khazars.
Most people don't know about Khazars.
Should be common knowledge, but isn't. They ruled over Europe and Asia during all the Middle Ages. It'd be interesting to find out if people in Europe are a little more savvy to this, because they certainly are more savvy to Israel's crimes. I wonder if they would accordingly maybe know a little more about, deeper in the past, about the Khazarian Empire. I suppose all the elite know about it, of course. So, but I wonder about Europe. Anyway, the word Khazars, as I typed it, it was underlined in red, the zigzag red underline. And I mean, I wasn't surprised, but then I thought about it, and then I was surprised, because I realized, well, this is historically significant, and everyone I've told about this, like family and friends, they all say, well, I never heard of it personally, but that doesn't mean there's a cover-up. But this does mean there's a cover-up. I mean, when a word that historically significant, I mean, can you imagine them spell-checking a word like Rome or Babylon? It's preposterous. But they spell-check Khazars, specifically targeted to keep it a secret so they can fulfill their plans. It's too obvious for words.
And what was the other word?
The other word, I want to get it right, was the Masoretic text. Masoretic, okay, was underlined in red. I capitalized it, I got it spelled right, I double-checked on Wikipedia, I made sure. Okay, the Masoretic text. Obviously a little more obscure than Khazars, but still incredibly important, because what people don't know is that most of the versions of the Bible that are not the King James Version, the King James Version is good, by the way, not because it's nothing to do with King James, it's because it comes from the Septuagint. That's why it's a good version. It comes from the church. The New International Version, though, for example, comes from the Masoretic text, which was edited subsequent to the rise of Christianity by Jewish interests trying to keep people from converting to Christianity because of all the messianic prophecies which Jesus fulfilled. Now, I've heard people on both sides. I've heard Christians say that's ridiculous, or that that there's always a debate about, did Jesus really fulfill the prophecies? Okay, but if you're working from the Masoretic text, that becomes an issue. What the upshot of all this, I just want to point this out, is this is all enabling Zionism. The Masoretic text is Zionism's wet dream. I mean, because here's what it does. It de-Christianizes Christians, and it makes them think that really the Jews are still somehow legitimate. If Christ did not fulfill all of their prophecies, they would be. Think about it. Judaism would still be a legitimate way of following God, okay? Except that Jesus fulfilled all the law and the prophets, and he set up a new law, and that was God's sign that we were supposed to follow him. But let's just say, for example, if you only knew the New International Version from the Masoretic text, which is what a lot of the now Baptist establishment and a lot of the Protestant establishment are pushing, and even worse, if you had like say the new versions that are politically correct, gender inclusive language, you would be almost completely deprived of what originally was prophesying Jesus in the Old Testament. So you're basically now at this point just being brainwashed into believing that, oh, the chosen people are really still the chosen people, and it has nothing to do. Christ is sort of a footnote or a side note. It really messes with the way Christians perceive our own, Christ's legitimacy. And now, then you get what you have today with all these so-called evangelicals who are basically Judaizers. In fact, they're not even Christians. Think about it, because, they're more Jewish than Christian in their thinking. They believe that really to be compare it with the early Christian debate when people knew the original Bible. There was no Masoretic text. It was the original Hebrew Bible that people were looking at, the real scriptures, okay? And the only debate anywhere in the church, as you read in the New Testament, wasn't whether or not someone had to become Christian, but whether or not someone had to be Jewish in order to be Christian. The whole point was to accept Jesus. There was no salvation without that. That was the fulfillment, that was the perfection. So there was no point in talking about, oh, maybe it's okay that they're just Jewish, we don't have to bother. No, the whole debate was whether we had to make Gentiles Jewish in order to make them Christian. Always the end goal was, to come to the true faith. So, we've really been duped in that way. So I just thought that's an interesting word too that Microsoft Word spell check simply doesn't recognize. But the big one, of course, is the Khazars. It's a travesty. It's a climactic event. It defined the Dark Ages. Why isn't it? It defined 500 years plus of medieval history. Why isn't it recognized? The establishment is trying to take it out of our vocabulary, or keep it out. So that's definitely going to find a place in our book.
So why would it be so significant for the elite, or the New World Order, or the Illuminati? Why would they want those words to be taken out of our vocabulary?
Because they're descended from the Khazars.
They're descended from the Khazars. Interesting.
And they're descended in lineage and in ideology. Because the Khazars, remember, their religion prior to converting to a sort of Judaism they concocted, they were very Egyptological. History tells us they had a prominent place for the what do you call the little pyramids on the top of the pillars there? What in the world are they? No, the obelisks. Okay.
Oh, okay.
The phallic symbols. Okay, they were just, and when they accepted Judaism, it was there was a lot of emphasis on Lucifer, because they just simply, if you look at the way they operate, it's easy to understand why they would identify more with that particular character. So that's the reason that they don't want us to see this, because they haven't changed. They haven't changed a bit. They've only adapted in order to dupe and control us. But their behavior patterns are the same. Their strategies are the same. So they operate in the same way. And so if we knew just a little bit about this history, we could really be prepared. It's not just about, God, guns, and Bible. Have the right Bible, have the Septuagint. The King James Bible is a good one. But also know a little history. Couldn't hurt.
Interesting. You talk about this plan. These Khazars, they're very elusive. very controlled topic. Even to the fact that you can see that they're controlled through Microsoft Word.
Which is why I like reading about them.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. You know, the Khazars, if you follow back where they came from, the Caucasus Mountains.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's called the Caucasus Mountains.
First of all, they're not from the tribes of Israel, first of all.
Right.
Definitely not.
So that means that they're not from the tribes of Israel. So that makes them not what?
Well, not descended from Abraham.
Okay, if they're not descended from Abraham, and what would you call them? If they're not Jewish, what are they?
Gentiles.
They're Gentiles. So these people that are not Jewish call themselves Jews nowadays. It's interesting, there's a passage in the Bible, and I believe it's in Revelation chapter 13. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, but it talks about those who call themselves Jews but not Jews, but are from the house of Satan or Lucifer.
Now there could be some of them that legitimately converted, because there's nothing in Judaism that says no one can turn to God and convert. I mean, that's the whole Old Testament as well as the New Testament. Of course, the New Testament is much more peaceful, but in the Old Testament as well, you have whole nations, converting to the true God. So it's not as if you have to be descended. You don't have to have your lineage directly from Abraham in order to be a Jew. I think there are other ways, at least according to Scripture. Obviously, there's different views on that among Jews today as well. It's like if your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish. It's like, I thought it was, I guess it's a race as well as a faith, so it's all kind of confusing to me. But I do know what I see in the Bible, and that's that people who repent of their twisted ways and turn to the true God, even before Christ, there's hope for them. So even in Judaism, you could say that within their system, it's not a bad thing if the conversion's legitimate. But say, for example, somebody dresses up like what we see the warning about in the New Testament letter. If someone dresses up like a Jew, but their whole emphasis on Lucifer, chances are maybe they're not what most of us think of when we think of Judaism, not the real thing, the more the occult side of it.
So that's where I was getting to. These guys that call themselves Jews but are not, because if you were truly Jewish, you'd be following the Torah, the Old Testament. But these guys that are Khazars, these guys that are Zionists, they don't follow the Old Testament Torah. But what they do follow is a book called the Kabbalah. Now, the interesting thing about the Kabbalah, they don't worship the God that the Hebrew Jews worship. They worship a different God, a God that calls himself Lucifer. So,
whereas the true God is Yahweh or Jehovah.
Right. So we just wanted basically to point out who these mainstream, I wouldn't call them mainstream, but who these people are that are controlling Hollywood, controlling the banks, controlling the mainstream media. The difference between them, who are followers of the Kabbalah, who are descendants of the Khazar, and real true Hebrew Jews who follow after the Bible or follow after the Torah. There's a big difference, and also there's a difference between their Zionism and Judaism. Now, Zionism is a political ideology. Judaism is a religion, follows after God. So what we have,
Judaism is also a race, or we more commonly refer to the race as Jewry.
Right.
So anyway.
So what we have here in these Illuminati figures who are attempting to create this one world government are people that are following after a political agenda, basically. They believe that in order to bring the Messiah, that they have to control the world first. The world government has to be formed, and then comes the Messiah. Okay? These are the Zionist thinkers. So they're working their butts off to destroy any nation that stands in their way, including America. America is definitely in their way of a one-world government because of our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. That definitely, and the fact that we own guns. It stands a big way of getting in front of the New World Order, or the one-world government. And so, my point is, the Jews, Hebrew Jews, are not trying in their religion to create a one-world government, but in their ideology, they're waiting for their Messiah to come back, to rescue them. They're not trying to create a world government to bring their Messiah back. So this is where people have to understand. The reason why, during World War II, Adolf Hitler, who was a Zionist Jew, or a Zionist Khazar.
It's a documented fact that Zionism thrived under the Nazi regime.
Yes,
thrived.
That's right.
And that they shipped Jews to Palestine during the Holocaust. These are all documented facts.
That's right. And they also took the Jews, which were Zionist Khazar Jews, took Orthodox, Bible-believing Jews and threw them in the concentration camps. And this is some of the history that you are not being told. You are told total lies about Adolf Hitler
Just about.
And the whole Jewish conspiracy. So that I just feel is very important, I guess, since we went in this direction with this video.
I have another answer to your question, too, why they don't want us to know about the Khazars. Because one of the key terms as you learn about the Khazarian Empire, by the way, there's some sites that are out in the open. I think it's Khazaria. There's a website called Khazaria. It's either .org or .com, I don't remember. But you can learn all about the Khazarian culture. I mean, it's not a completely evil thing, of course. No people, I don't believe, are completely evil. I mean, I believe in being, you know, basically biased against or for all cultures equally. But nonetheless, this is impressive, and like I say, it's repressed information. And anyway, as you learn about the Khazarian Empire and its fascinating culture and religion, you'll come across the term Kagan. Now, hopefully, if your memory is reasonably good, you'll remember Elena Kagan, who was appointed to the Supreme Court, is a Supreme Court justice, one of the 9, I think. And anyways, her last name is very important. A Kagan in the pre-Jewish Khazarian world was the high priest, was the pagan high priest, was the shaman, was the, you know, the top religious spiritual leader. So they were not the emperor, but in a way they were more than that. So anyways, that was shocking when I learned that, because it's really in our faces. Just the fundamental knowledge of the Khazarian Empire, if we could spread this around the people, we would not be as easy for them to bamboozle the way they are. There was a gentleman, and I can't think of his name right now, spoke at a Ron Paul convention. Do you remember his name?
I do remember his name, but offhand it escapes me for the moment.
Excellent video. We can link it below.
Yeah, Jack. His name is Jack Otto.
That's right.
Jack Otto is very good at his. Basically, it's called Forbidden Knowledge. Jack Otto. You can look it up. Definitely Google Jack Otto. He does a great presentation about the Khazars, about the Rockefellers, the Red Shield, and basically all about how they came to be in America, and how they're basically behind what's happening with this banking crisis. Yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. I would definitely suggest that you guys check it out. I do want to get back to our topic here, because I think it's important that people understand this false flag attack mentality. These people that are doing this, these so-called Khazarian Illuminati families, also are the same people that are in charge of a lot of these secret societies, like the, you know, I don't want to, well, you look up secret societies and you find out who they are, and you'll find out they're all connected to the Queen. They're all connected to the Queen of England, and they're all infiltrating the United States and our government and our politics, and everything that is going on in this country is due to secret societies that are controlled by the Queen, who's an Illuminatiist Khazarian. But they use symbolism, and they also use numerology, and they do this because they worship the stars. If you there's a thing called anyways, sorry, my brain is on I'm having a senior moment here. So we'll just
describe it.
No, it's I could see it in my mind, but in reality, my brain is just stuck. It's has to do with the stars and the
Star of David?
No, stars. The occult, the planning of all these things with the numerology,
sacred geometry,
the Sibley's chart. These people use what they call the Sibley's chart, and the Sibley's chart, if you look it up, the Masons use this, and they use it in planning events. Okay, so I'm sure if we find the Sibley's chart and we use that, I'm sure you could find, you know, the planet's alignment and where all this occultism, they use the stars to plan events. Like, for instance, Washington, D.C. is all lined up because of the Sibley's chart. A lot of the places where they place stones, and it's all about sun worship and things like that. So the 2012 Olympics has a lot of Illuminati symbolism behind it and numerology. And I want to go over a few of these things that have to do with these two mascots. It's the meaning of Wenlock and Mandeville. The 2000 Olympic mascots are bizarre animations supposedly depicting two drops of steel from steelworks. The names covertly stand for We Unlock Mad Devil. Now, to me, that's why would you pick those two names? Was it just coincidence? We Unlock Mad Devil. Wenlock and Madville. That's what those names mean. If you put them together, We Unlock Mad Devil. What are they trying to tell us here in the 2012 Olympics? Is this another occult practice, human sacrifice with this so-called nuclear bomb going off in London? So the occult symbolism and numerology behind the 2012 Olympic mascots. The date that these were revealed was 5/19/2010. If you add all those up, 5/19/2010, it equals 18. Now 18 reduced, it equals 666, which equals 33, 33, 33. Oh, some of the other interests, I'm going to go through a whole list of numerology here. The letters on the head of the mascots W and M. If you look up W and M in the numerology chart, the W and M equal 33. The left mascot wears a pyramid. That symbolizes 3 points with 3 lines above, equaling 33. The right mascot wears 6 raised indentations, which equal 33. Each mascot has an all-seeing eye, which also equals 11. The number of mascots, 2, which equal 11. Now, what does this all have to do with what's going to happen in, basically, what's going to happen over there in London? Basically, this is all code. They're telling us what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. So, when this shit hits the fan, I want you guys to know, yes, this is the Illuminati Khazar family behind this whole event. And don't be fooled by the mainstream media trying to point their finger over to the Middle East, to Iran. Yes, they're going to do it, and yes, most people are going to fall for it. They're going to fall, once again, just like 9/11. They fell for some guy in a cave when the occult Illuminati was behind the whole thing. So that's basically the reason we made this video, was just to warn people about this whole idea of London. And I'm hoping that, you know, nothing is going to happen here at the Olympics and nobody's going to get hurt. So
the other thing is the symbols. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The 5 rings, if you look at it, of course, they're generally understood to represent the 5 continents. Okay, it's a globalist symbol. We've seen how they use pagan Greek ceremonies, just getting more disturbing with each passing Olympic game. And one of them kind of looks like Kermit the Frog.
Oh,
green
yeah.
one underneath, the green one on the bottom right, it's a green ring. Well, that's another big deal, kind of.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
John mentioned that earlier about the green circle with the eyes. Now John thinks that's Kermit the Frog, and Kermit the Frog is a type of a lizard. If you get into the Illuminati symbolism, that in itself, the green in the eyes with the circle looking like Kermit the Frog, that is symbolism of the reptilian. Now these people believe that they're getting their knowledge, their information from a higher source, which is a reptilian type of a race. Now you remember in the Bible that Lucifer was like a serpent and he was crawling around on his belly. Can you connect reptilian serpents with Lucifer, Satan? I believe so. These people believe that they have power that comes from Lucifer, and that this Lucifer is going to spiritually come into a human being. Their so-called Illuminati bloodline, their Antichrist, so-called guy, is going to be from the bloodlines of the Illuminati Khazar. Now, if you get into studying this whole thing, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the Da Vinci Code, and they have this whole like ideology about Jesus having children, and that there's a bloodline, and that bloodline exists today, and that bloodline is the royal family. Well, if this ideology that they believe in is their Antichrist, their Messiah that they're trying to create, many people are believing that this is the bloodline of Princess Diana as well as Prince Charles. Now, Princess Diana would have been of the bloodline of the Khazars, which would be the Zionist Khazars. The bloodline of Prince Charles and his family, they would say that would come all the way back to the line of Christ or the line of Jesus. This is what they believe. This isn't necessarily what I believe or what John believes. But if you get into studying, doing some research into this, there is something to it. I don't know how concrete it is or any of that, but these people believe it, and that's what's important, that the Antichrist is going to come through a bloodline, and they're going to convince the so-called Jews of today that the Illuminati bloodline of the Antichrist, some people say it's going to be Prince Charles, some people say it's going to be Prince William. If you go down to Brazil, you're going to see that there's a statue dedicated to Prince Charles, and it shows him as an angel with giant feathers and a gold statue, but he's crushing all of like these military, tanks and all this interesting stuff. So Prince Charles kind of like the angel that's going to come and save the world. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to find out. So, but anyways, back to John here.
Anyways, they represent the 5 continents. If you look at the logo itself, you'll see there are 5 different colored rings, and they represent the 5 continents. It's a globalist symbol, and it's really that simple. You've got the blue. First ring is blue. Looks like symbolizing Asia. And you've got the yellow. Nope. Yeah. Looks like Antarctica. The kind of red colored one, that's North America. And then the yellow one, oh, I already said that. There's a black one and a green one, and that's South America. I guess, did I say Africa? Is there like one for England? Is that separate? No. Europe? Yeah. Anyway, somebody messed up there, but so anyway, oh, here's the logo that I hadn't seen in a while. This is interesting. Did you see this logo? It's got London, but it's also saying 2012 right there. See how that works?
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Pretty interesting.
So,
a lot of this, we're going to put a lot of these guys, we're going to put most of these pictures we're talking about, it's all going to be on our blog. If you want to check out our blog, you're going to find it. It's at anti-newworldorderparty.wordpress.com. Right now, our .com for the Anti-New World Order Party is actually down right now. I do want to get that back up, but right now, if you want to find anything we're doing, just go to our WordPress site, and you'll find that information.
And then if you want to do some extracurricular work, just look at Rio 2016 and see if you can decode that symbol. Just noticed that here too.
Something John was talking about here with the symbolism, I found this about the, remember we were talking about the card game earlier? Another one of the cards in the Illuminati game had a picture of Big Ben being blown up with 5 men, each of them wearing different colors, red, blue, yellow, green, and black. The same colors of the 5 Olympic rings. The same way the cards keep depicting the 9/11 attacks. Could this card be a sign of the planned terrorist attack in the London Olympics? Yeah, all these coincidental things. I don't think they're coincidences. I think they're just witchcraft, and they're trying to tell us before they cast their spell and go through with their whole game here, their whole plan. It's pretty sick. These people are really sick. Mm-hmm. So, and anybody out there that says, "Oh, you guys are crazy," guess what? You're not following what's really happening in the world right now. If you're watching American Idol and you're watching Fox and CNN News, they're not going to tell you this hidden stuff that's happening, you know, behind the scenes. I mean, that's what we do. We study this stuff constantly, and there's a lot more of us than there are of you. So if you want to know what's going to happen, like 9/11, we knew it was going to happen before it happened. Back then, I wasn't blogging, and I wasn't, how would you say, writing articles. But guess what? That was a big motivating factor of why I do this stuff now. I was telling people, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're crazy. That shit's never going to happen." Well, guess what? It did. It did happen. Just like this is probably going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but guess what?
If enough of us are aware of it, it won't be worth it for them. That's the key. So get the word out.
That's all we're asking you to do.
Mm-hmm. Get the word out. Learn a little bit about history. You know, we don't. You know, I mean, there's a lot of voices out there that just sort of, you know, they're talking about the modern events, but they're sort of, you know, stringing people along, leading them by the nose. What I'd like people to do to be really empowered and soundly grounded is learn your history. You know, spend at least 3 hours reading about the Khazars. 3 hours of your life, they're going to make the rest of your life a lot freer. Okay?
Definitely. And also some comments from some of the people out there who say, oh, you guys aren't very organized and this and that. I'm glad you say that stuff, and the reason I do say it is because we're real. We're not like Alex Jones.
Sorry, we're not corporate.
Yeah, we're not Glenn Beck. We're just normal guys here, and we're really trying to get the word out the best that we can, the best that we know how. You know, this is my own little tiny studio here, and you can see my own little laptop, and we're making this fun. And the Anti-New World Order Party, it's a real thing. We're actually going to be working on getting some election, some voting, getting out some signatures, organizing. If you're interested in doing any of that kind of stuff, real stuff, voting against, you know, the lesser two evils, then give us a shout.
Yeah, we don't mind being small or being, personally, I don't mind being small or being local. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's how the game is played. I mean, if you were awake enough, you might all know that.
Definitely. But to our friends out there that are supporting us, we thank you for all that you've done to get the word out and help pass this information along. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. My name's Dan Leach of the Anti-New World Order Party, and this is John McGuire. We just want to say thank you again, and good luck, and get the information out. God bless. Until next time.